And we're back with what some are calling a stunning statement from Secretary of Defense Ash Carter.
What apparently happened was that the Iraqi forces just showed no will to fight.
Carter blaming the Iraqi army for not trying hard enough. Is it time for the president to revise his plans, or is it too late? Here to offer his insight, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, Fox News strategic analyst and author of Valley of the Shadow. Good to see you. Happy Memorial Day. Lieutenant Colonel, I wonder if you can tell us, is this an attempt to fire up the Iraqi army, or could it backfire?
No, it's a statement of fact. And I thought my impression when Carter said that was, hallelujah, somebody in Washington finally gets it. Because, you know, as you both know, Washington's a numbers town. They count stuff. Even the Pentagon is counting number of troops, number of weapons, numbers of trainers. This kind of fight isn't about numbers. It's about strength of will. And Ash Carter, who's becoming a very impressive SecDef, really nailed it, because people fight for different things. In the United States military, we fight for abstract concepts, a constitution. We fight for our government. In the Middle East, governments have always been the enemy. They come and take your taxes, they take your sons, they empower corrupt people to take your land, sometimes they take your daughters. So the people, the fighters in Iraq, the soldiers, don't feel much loyalty to this Baghdad government, except for the Shia militias. But people fight, again, for different things. Arabs will fight for their faith, for their family clan, and for their turf. And faith is by far the most important motivator for them, by far. And so you've got Islamic State militants who have several years of combat experience now, are anxious. I mean, they're willing and even anxious to die for their cause, and the Iraqi army just doesn't want to pay a price. So guess who's going to win?
Yeah. Well, how do you square the two? I mean, last week we heard President Obama in that interview with The Atlantic saying that we're not losing in Iraq and that the Iraqi army has been a success. And then a week later, you have, it seemed like an unguarded moment there out on the street with Ash Carter saying they don't have the fight, they don't have the will to fight. How can they square the two?
Well, the president lies. He lives in a dream world. He doesn't understand the military. He doesn't understand war. He doesn't apparently understand the Constitution either, but that's another issue. Look, you've got to get down to the facts of the case. The president, again, he and all the president's men and women engage in this wishful thinking that somehow Islamic State will magically be defeated. What we saw in Ramadi was a brilliant military operation, not terrorism, although that was a component. We saw them use a sandstorm to move in. They coordinated their operations, used surprise, shock, simultaneous and coordinated attacks, multiple major car bombings. I mean, the Iraqi military outnumbered the Islamic State fighters probably about 5 or 6 to 1. But Islamic State was so good that the Iraqis collapsed. Plus, one thing we should never forget, Islamic State has a brand. It's a powerful brand. They wage psychological warfare far better than we do. They really do instill terror into hearts. And those Iraqi soldiers who didn't want to be there in the first place knew that if they're captured, they get the big chop. Their heads are gone. So they fold.
Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, always great to see you. And on this solemn day, we thank you for getting up and joining us on Fox and Friends. Thanks, Colonel.